Refining data, why meaning and context are the real products of the information economy. Introduction, the refinery metaphor. We've all heard the phrase, data is the new oil. It's become a cliche in tech and business circles, used to signal the value of information in a digital age. But like crude oil, raw data in its unprocessed form is messy, overwhelming, and often unusable. On its own, it holds potential, but not power. The real value emerges only after it has been refined, transformed into insights, narratives, or frameworks that can guide decision-making, shape culture, or drive markets. This brings us to a sharper and more useful framing. Data is the new oil. Meaning and context are the refined product. In an era defined by information overload, the true scarcity isn't data access, it's interpretive power, the ability to extract signal from noise, to compress events into narratives, to turn chaos into clarity. And this shift is giving rise to a new kind of professional, a new kind of economy, and a new kind of power, the power to refine. This exposition explores the birth of a new discipline, narrative design, and how it reframes our understanding of value creation in the information economy. Whether we're talking about viral tweets, blockchain protocols, influencer gossip, or geopolitical events, the ability to make meaning at scale is quickly becoming the most valuable skill of the 21st century. Let's begin where value starts, with a hierarchy that traces all the way back to a deceptively simple quote. The value hierarchy, people, events, ideas. There's a famous quote, often attributed to Eleanor Roosevelt, that goes, "Great minds discuss ideas, average minds discuss events, small minds discuss people." At first glance, it reads like a moral hierarchy, a way to encourage intellectual conversation and discourage gossip. But what if we reinterpret it not as a value judgment, but as a map of attention and monetization? A framework for understanding how different layers of discourse and data can be captured, processed, and repackaged into value. Let's break it down. 1. People, the gossip layer. While often dismissed, gossip is one of the oldest and most lucrative forms of media. Entire empires, tabloids, reality TV, influencer marketing are built on the monetization of attention around people. Celebrity brands, social media algorithms, and click-driven news cycles thrive here. In modern internet culture, influencer economies and parasocial relationships generate billions. Kim Kardashian, MrBeast, and countless others have turned personal visibility into multi-layered business ecosystems. Gossip, far from being trivial, is a powerful form of cultural signal, raw, emotional, and sticky. 2. Events, the trend layer. Events create spikes in attention. Wars, sports finals, product launches, political elections, memes. These are the moments that drive the news cycle, financial markets, and cultural movements. In the blockchain world, events like airdrops, NFT mints, or halving cycles are monetized through speculation and hype. What's being tokenized here is urgency and context, the value of now. While the shelf life of event-based value is short, the returns can be massive. Think Super Bowl ad spots or viral TikToks. Event designers, marketers, and traders live in this layer. 3. Ideas, the protocol layer. Ideas are the slowest to monetize but have the longest shelf life and deepest leverage. This is where foundational value is built. Intellectual frameworks, political ideologies, blockchain protocols, software standards. While people and events create momentum, ideas create infrastructure. Bitcoin, for example, isn't just a token. It's a protocol built on an idea. Digital scarcity. Ethereum isn't just an asset. It's a generalized idea about programmable value. These are fat protocols, where the idea layer captures the value stack below it. Seeing the stack clearly. What the quote offers us, when reframed, is a hierarchy of attention, temporality, and monetization potential. Let's zoom out for a moment. What you're looking at here is the attention to value stack, a reframed version of that old Roosevelt quote, now seen through the lens of the information economy. Bottom layer, people. This is the raw material layer. It's where culture lives. It's gossip, influence, personality, behavior. It's the Kardashians, it's Kanye, it's your Twitter feed. It's everything that lives at street-level human interaction. Short shelf life, but high emotional energy. Brands thrive here. So do influencers. It's monetized through endorsements, virality, and parasocial capital. Short-term attention, emotionally charged, instantly monetizable. Middle layer, events. Now we move up to the trend layer, events. This is where stories begin to scale. A concert, an airdrop, a crisis, a movement. They capture the now, media, markets, momentum. This is where journalists, marketers, traders, and memers operate. Events have a mid-range lifespan. They don't last forever, but their impacts echo. Medium-term attention, monetized through speculation, views, hype, and reactions. Top layer, ideas. This is the infrastructure layer. Ideas are protocols, frameworks, philosophies. They don't trend, they anchor. Bitcoin, the Constitution, the FAT protocol thesis. These are high-leverage concepts that quietly govern the systems below. They take longer to catch on, but once embedded, they reshape entire ecosystems. This is where the narrative designers, founders, and systems thinkers live. Long-term attention, monetized through platforms, tokens, governance, and ownership. Final slide insight. Every layer has value, but the true alchemy comes from understanding how to move between them, turning a person into a movement, turning an event into a protocol, turning gossip into governance. And that leads us to the birth of a new role in the economy, the narrative designer, someone who can synthesize all three. Next section, the rise of narrative design. As the information economy matures, a new kind of architect is emerging. Not a coder, not a journalist, not a traditional analyst, but something in between. Someone who can take fragments of culture, moments in time, and abstract ideas and assemble them into coherent, valuable meaning. This person is a narrative designer. In an age where data is infinite but attention is scarce, the bottleneck has shifted from information production to information refinement. Who can make sense of it all? Who can compress chaos into clarity? Who can take raw cultural material and refine it into insight that moves people, markets, or code? That is the role of narrative design. Narrative design defined. Narrative design is the discipline of transforming raw data across people, events, and ideas into structured insight, story, and value. It is both an art and a science, pulling from data analysis, journalism, storytelling, system design, and cultural fluency. The narrative designer isn't just a content creator. They are a signal processor, a semantic architect, and often a tokenization strategist. They ask, what is happening right now beneath the noise? What are the patterns no one else sees? How do we present this so it lands and leads to action, ownership, or belief? Why narrative design matters now. The rise of AI, decentralized networks, and social tokens means that content and computation are cheap, but context is priceless. Machines can summarize data, but they cannot assign human relevance, emotional resonance, or cultural meaning with the same nuance that lived experience brings. Narrative designers fill that gap. They translate raw feeds into digestible frameworks, turn trends into insights, connect memes to markets, help communities, DOs, brands, and protocols communicate their value. They are the translators of the new internet, between the human layer and the protocol layer, between the street and the boardroom. In short, the world no longer needs more data. It needs better narrators. And those narrators must be trained, empowered, and incentivized. Let's now explore what makes a narrative designer effective, the skill stack that defines this emerging profession. This content is brought to you by Bobby Giggs. Promote your brand here and reach a wide audience across platforms like YouTube, Instagram, and Facebook. Follow the links in the description to get started. The skill stack of the narrative designer. Narrative designers operate at the crossroads of culture, computation, and communication. They don't fit neatly into traditional roles because their power lies in synthesis. To thrive in this emerging field, one must develop a multidisciplinary toolkit that bridges raw input with refined insight. Here's the core skill stack that defines a narrative designer. 1. Data literacy and signal extraction. At the base of the stack is the ability to read, interpret, and structure information. This doesn't mean coding like an engineer, but it does mean knowing how to parse data sets, dashboards, and trend lines, distinguish noise from signal, ask better questions of information, recognize the shape of a story hiding in the numbers. A narrative designer doesn't just scroll, they see patterns in the scroll. 2. Cultural fluency and emotional intelligence. Narratives don't live in spreadsheets. They live in people. The ability to sense shifts in language, tone, meme culture, and vibe is non optional in a post algorithmic world. Emotional intelligence allows designers to feel what a community feels before they say it, translate niche sentiment into mainstream language, predict the emotional resonance of an idea before it launches. This is where Black creators, street level observers, and culturally attuned communities excel. They have native fluency in live social data. Storytelling and synthesis. This is the alchemical layer, turning insights into structured narratives. A great narrative designer must know how to organize complexity into elegant structure, write with clarity, tension, and impact, use metaphor, analogy, and pacing to guide understanding, speak to multiple audiences, technical, emotional, executive. They are not just describing reality, they're reframing it. 4. System thinking and framework design. Once insight is discovered, how do you make it reusable? This is where frameworks, taxonomies, and mental models come in. Designers must learn how to architect repeatable insight flows, build models for others to plug into, create scalable thought systems, think Simon Sinek's Why or the Fat Protocol thesis, apply first principles thinking to reduce noise. Narrative designers don't just surf waves, they build maps. 5. Tokenomics and platform fluency. In a decentralized world, insight isn't just shared, it can be owned, monetized, and traded. Narrative designers increasingly need to understand how to create tokenized insights, e.g., social tokens, NFTs, info assets, ways to distribute meaning across platforms like Mirror, Farcaster, Zora, Substack, etc. Mechanics of engagement and value accrual in digital economies. The difference between audience and community, and how to mobilize both. This is where the refinery meets the market. A great narrative designer doesn't need to master every skill at once, but they must understand how these layers interact. Mastery comes from the ability to integrate, to pull data from the street, frame it as story, and launch it as an asset. In the next section, we'll explore exactly how this plays out, how meaning itself becomes tokenized in the new information economy. Tokenizing meaning, the future of value capture. If data is the new oil and narrative designers are the refiners, then the logical next step is this. How do you package, own, and distribute refined meaning as a valuable asset? This is the final and perhaps most revolutionary layer of the information economy, tokenizing insight itself. No longer limited to likes, clicks, or passive views, narrative now becomes something you can track, trade, and trust. From content to asset. Traditionally, narratives were valuable only through attention arbitrage. Write a blog, gain followers, sell ads. But in Web3 and AI native ecosystems, insight can be minted as NFTs, a unique take, a framework, a narrative moment, shared through smart contracts for co-ownership or attribution, monetized via creator tokens, where a person's influence is itself fractionalized, distributed through DAOs and collectives, where value is shared across a network of interpreters and refiners. Think of a narrative designer as a value router. They intercept culture in real time, encode it into a format, and distribute it through a network where others can invest in the narrative, not just consume it. Insight tokens and signal derivatives. Imagine being able to own a piece of a viral mental model, like the Fat Protocol thesis or Metcalfe's Law for networks. Trade cultural signals, like predictive indicators, early stage memes, trend forecasts, political sentiment shifts. Create structured bundles of insight, like an ETF of meaning, where each component is a refined piece of data with proven resonance. These are the derivatives of narrative capital. They're not fiction. They're the logical endgame of tokenizing value at every layer. Platforms like Zora, Mirror, and Farcaster frames are already laying the groundwork. What's missing is the discipline and methodology for extracting, compressing, and launching these insight products with rigor and clarity. That's what narrative design unlocks. Trust and attribution in the creator economy. Tokenization also enables what the Web2 content economy could never fully solve: proof of authorship, traceable influence, and value attribution. If a narrative designer sparks a new framing, say a meme or a mental model, and it gets reused, remixed, and scaled globally, shouldn't they receive credit and compensation? With tokenized narratives, attribution can be embedded in the asset, Value accrual can be tracked and split automatically. Curation becomes a market, not a favor. This is how we move from content creator to meaning architect. Now let's look at who's naturally built for this work. Because proximity to culture, rhythm, improvisation, and signal processing isn't taught in school, it's lived. And that's where the cultural advantage comes into focus. VI, the cultural advantage, why Black creators lead the way. In the era of narrative design, where meaning is the refined product and attention is the gateway to value, cultural proximity becomes a competitive advantage. Not theoretical, not symbolic, structural. And this is where Black creators, communities, and cultural interpreters emerge not just as participants, but as natural leaders of the new industry. Proximity to the pulse. Black people are in the streets. All day, every day. They are on every street corner and in every alley. They see events before they're televised. They hear gossip before it becomes mainstream news. They live in a constant feedback loop of human experience, raw, emotional, and real. This is data in its most unprocessed form. What algorithms try to guess, Black culture often knows intuitively. From hip-hop to hashtags, from fashion trends to political slang, Black communities have consistently shaped the front lines of culture, only to watch that value get extracted, commodified, and redistributed elsewhere. Narrative design flips the script. Pattern recognition, improvisation, and language. The core competencies of narrative design, pattern recognition, improvisation, remixing, storytelling, are already embedded cultural instincts in Black communities. Pattern recognition shows up in everything from freestyle rapping to meme fluency. Improvisation emerges in rhythm, vernacular, and adapting under constraint. Narrative agility has long been a survival mechanism, transforming oppression into poetry, struggle into comedy, and observation into critique. Where others study market trends, Black creators live them. From marginalization to monetization. Historically, Black brilliance has been extracted without ownership. Black culture has been the engine, while others controlled the infrastructure, record labels, media conglomerates, VC-backed platforms. But in the Web3 and AI-driven world, ownership infrastructure is now programmable. Creators can mint their own culture, tokenize their narratives, share value with their communities directly, set terms for remix and redistribution. Narrative design doesn't just acknowledge Black creators, it's built on their strengths. Narrative sovereignty. This is more than creative participation. This is economic participation at the protocol level. To lead in narrative design is to say, we don't just make the culture, we own the language that defines it. We don't just tell stories, we design the frameworks that encode value. We don't just react, we refine. The new refinery economy must be led by those closest to the raw material. Black creators are not a market, they are the market makers. Conclusion. The new refinery economy. We are entering a new era, one where meaning, not just data, becomes the core product of the digital economy. The pipelines have been built, the data is flowing, but the tools to refine that data into usable, contextual, and monetizable insight remain rare, and therefore powerful. This is the birth of what we now understand as the refinery economy. In this new economy, data is abundant, but meaning is scarce. Narratives are not just stories, they are structures of value. Creators are no longer just artists, they are engineers of culture. Black communities are no longer just tastemakers, they are protocol-level builders of the attention economy. And at the center of it all stands a new discipline, narrative design. The role of the narrative designer. The narrative designer is not a bystander in this system. They are a signal router, a semantic engineer, a cultural translator, and a tokenization strategist. They operate across layers, from the raw messiness of gossip, through the surge of events, toward the lasting frameworks of ideas. They convert chaos into context, trends into theses, and insights into assets. They don't just write the story. They design the ecosystem where stories become value. The refinery is open for business. The infrastructure now exists. Platforms that tokenize ideas mirror Zora Farcaster. Networks that reward curation, lens, paragraph, warpcast. Protocols that track origin, remix, and influence. What's needed now is the discipline, the education, the language, the shared mission, to train the next generation of narrative designers, to reward cultural fluency as much as technical fluency, to build the refinery economy in public. Final takeaway: in a world drowning in data, those who control the refinery of meaning will control the future. Narrative design isn't just a job, it's the new edge, and it will be led by those who've always lived close to the signal. The refinery is open. Let's build.